We've all been there, right? Staring at our screens like, come on, you dot thing. Work with me here. It's like our tech has a mind of its own sometimes.
It's definitely a shared experience, that's for sure. Those moments when technology seems to be working against us, not for us.
Totally.
Yeah.
But what if I told you there's a method to this madness, a way to banish those tech gremlins? And no, I'm not talking about some secret code or anything. This is a proven system,
hmm
one that's been quietly making industries hum for decades.
You're talking about Lean Six Sigma.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Lean Six Sigma. Although I
Good.
can already hear some of you thinking, oh, that sounds about as exciting as reading a dictionary, like something out of an old factory handbook. Am I right?
Well, you're not wrong about it having roots in manufacturing, but the ways it applies to IT, way more relevant and, dare I say it, interesting than people realize.
Okay, interesting. I'll bite. So where did this whole Lean Six Sigma thing even come from? Who dreamt this up?
Lean actually emerged from, get this, Toyota's production system way back in the early 1900s.
Toyota, those guys know a thing or two about efficiency. I mean, have you seen how those assembly lines move?
Exactly. And then you've got Six Sigma, came along a bit later, developed by Motorola in the 80s.
Motorola, as in they used to make those indestructible phones, right?
The very same. They were laser focused on reducing defects, really honing in on quality through this thing called statistical process control.
Okay, so we've got waste reduction from Toyota, quality obsession from Motorola. How does all this translate to, making my tech life easier? Paint me a picture here.
It boils down to working smarter, not harder. Imagine a world where those annoying tech hiccups, slow websites, glitchy software, those are minimized. Why? Because someone used Lean Six Sigma thinking to smooth out the process and squash those errors before they even pop up.
Sign me up. But how do we actually do Lean Six Sigma? Is it all like complex formulas and jargon? Because my brain's already full of enough code to crash a server.
Not at all. It's very practical, actually. It uses a structured problem-solving framework called DMAIC.
DAAC. All right, that does sound a little intimidating, I'm not going to lie. Break it down for me.
No problem. So DMAIC, it stands for Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, Control. Think of it like a roadmap. You use it to tackle problems and make your processes way better.
So DMAIC is my GPS for navigating the wild world of IT projects.
You got it. Like, say you're dealing with a network outage. Total nightmare, right? DMAIC is that step-by-step guide to figure out what's going on. Is it a bad router? Did a squirrel decide to take a bite out of a cable? You'll find out.
Now you're speaking my language. Walk me through how it works in action. Where do we even begin?
First things first, we got to define the problem. And I mean, really nail it down.
So none of this, the network's down, vagueness. We got to get specific.
Exactly. More like users in building A, they're having intermittent connectivity issues, but only when they try to access that cloud-based CRM we use. See the difference?
Yeah.
You have to define the problem's scope. Who's impacted? What's the potential fallout? We need details.
Makes sense. So we've defined the problem. How do we actually measure this thing? Because IT can feel like a black box sometimes, right?
That is where the measure phase comes in. And this is where we get into the nitty-gritty of data. And trust me, in IT, there is no shortage of data. We're talking server logs, network traffic, those cryptic error codes. We need it all.
But how do we even know where to look? Sometimes it feels like finding a needle in a haystack.
That's why understanding the process is key. We got to map out all the steps involved, like when a user connects to the network, then they access the CRM system, and then boom, they can load their customer data. You following? We collect data at each step. How long it takes, how often it crashes and burns, all of it. And for tracking those pesky errors, check sheets are our friends.
Check sheets. Sounds kind of old school, like just a fancy spreadsheet.
Essentially, yeah, but with a purpose. Imagine tracking error codes for a new software release. The check sheet. It shows you which errors keep popping up the most. It's like a roadmap for the developers, guiding them straight to the biggest problem areas.
So it's not just about gathering any old data. It's about getting the right data, the stuff that points to bottlenecks and pain points.
You're getting it.
Okay, so we've defined the problem, mapped the process, and now we've got a mountain of data. Time to fire up Excel and get our data analysis on.
You know it. This is where we put our detective hats on, dive into that data, and figure out what's really causing these headaches. And one of the coolest tools we have for this, the fishbone diagram.
A fishbone diagram. Okay, now that just sounds fishy.
I promise, it's way less fishy than it sounds. It's a visual tool, helps us brainstorm all the possible causes of a problem.
So let's say our problem is slow database queries. Those are the worst. How would a fishbone diagram help there?
Imagine a team, they're pulling their hair out over this exact issue. They use a fishbone diagram, and what do they find? It's not actually the database itself. It's this clunky code written ages ago that's slowing everything down. The diagram helps categorize those potential causes so you can see, is it the people, the processes, the tech itself, or something else entirely?
So we get a big picture view, not just focusing on one little piece of the puzzle. I like it. But once we've found all these possible causes, how do we know which ones are the real troublemakers?
Data analysis to the rescue. We've got our statistical tools and techniques. These help us figure out which factors have the biggest impact.
So, no more relying on gut feelings or hunches. We let the data lead the way to the best solutions. I'm on board with that. But I'll be honest, all this data analysis sounds, well, kind of intense.
It can be, no doubt. But the insights you get, totally worth it. And this brings us to the improve phase of DMAIC.
So now we get to fix things. Because analyzing is great and all, but at some point, you got to roll up your sleeves and, actually do something.
Exactly. Based on all that analysis, we develop solutions, and then we put them into action. We're talking about tackling those root causes head on. Back to our slow database. Maybe it's optimizing that clunky code or upgrading hardware, even rethinking how the data is structured in the first place.
So it's like instead of just putting a Band-Aid on a huge problem, we're going in for surgery and fixing the source of the issue.
Now you're talking. And once we've made those improvements, we move on to the final stage. Control.
Control, as in, don't touch anything, we finally got it working.
I like your style. But yeah, this phase is all about making sure those improvements last. We don't want to slip back into those old, inefficient habits, right?
Tell me about it. We've all been there. You fix a problem, feeling good, high fives all around. Then a few weeks later, bam! Same problem's back to haunt you.
The worst, right. So the control phase, this is about making real, lasting change. We document everything, standardize procedures, and set up systems to constantly monitor things. That way, all that hard work, it sticks.
So in our database saga, that might mean new coding standards, regular performance testing, or maybe even those automated alerts that wave a red flag if something looks fishy before it becomes a 5-alarm fire.
You've got it. It's about making those improvements part of how we do things day in and day out.
This DMAIC framework is starting to click now. It's like a very logical, step-by-step approach to problem solving.
That's it. And look, it might seem overwhelming at first, but think of it like learning a new coding language. The more you use it, the easier it gets.
Practice makes perfect.
Precisely. And the best part about DMAIC is it's adaptable. You can use it for all sorts of problems, from troubleshooting tech issues to streamlining how you develop software.
Okay, so we've got the what of Lean Six Sigma, the how, with DMAIC. Now for the million-dollar question. What's in it for me? Why should I, as an IT pro, care about any of this?
I'm glad you asked. That's actually a perfect segue, too.
So we've got this DMAIC toolkit, right?
Yeah.
But what kind of goodies are we digging up with it? What's the payoff for IT folks like me?
Well, let's start with something near and dear to every IT manager's heart. Saving money. That's right, cold hard cash. Lean Six Sigma, it helps you cut out all that wasteful spending. Like, think about those inefficient processes that eat up time. Or maybe you've got systems you don't even need anymore, just drain your budget. Gone.
Music to my ears. Less waste, more budget for cool new projects. I'm listening.
And it's not just about saving money. Quality improvement is another biggie. Happier users, fewer headaches for you. It's a win-win. By cutting down on defects and errors, you get better software, systems that actually work, smoother services. Imagine way less time battling those annoying bugs, more time for the fun stuff, the innovation.
So you're saying I could finally escape the black hole of my inbox, no more endless support tickets? Tell me more.
And let's not forget about your career, right? Having Lean Six Sigma skills on your resume, that's huge. It shows you're all about efficiency, quality, always improving. Employers eat that stuff up.
So it's like a secret weapon for my career. I like the sound of that. Maybe I could finally add black belt to my LinkedIn profile. But before I get ahead of myself, let's talk about how Lean Six Sigma fits in with the reigning champ of the IT world, Agile. Friends or foes? What do you think?
That's a question I hear a lot, and the answer might surprise you. It's more like a match made in tech heaven.
Really? I always pictured them as like oil and water. They don't really mix, do they?
True, they've got different strengths, but those differences, that's what makes them so great together. Agile, it's all about speed, flexibility, changing course quickly, crucial in software development, right? Things are always in flux.
Tell me about it. Agile saves us from those waterfall project management disasters. spending months on a plan, only to realize the requirements changed a dozen times while you were busy planning.
Been there. But sometimes when you're moving that fast, quality takes a hit. That's where Lean Six Sigma comes in. Think of it like fine-tuning a high-performance engine. You need both speed and precision.
So it's like the best of both worlds. We're talking cheetah speed with, like, Swiss watch accuracy.
Exactly. Imagine Agile as building a rocket at warp speed. Lean Six Sigma swoops in to make sure all the nuts and bolts are perfectly tightened. You don't want your rocket falling apart mid-flight.
Okay, that's a visual I won't forget anytime soon. But how does this dream team actually work in the trenches, with real-world coding sprints and deadlines and all that?
Picture this. You've got your Agile team. They're racing towards a big product launch. Deadlines are met. Everyone's happy. Except they keep hitting the same bugs, same errors over and over, slows everything down. This is where Lean Six Sigma principles, things like value stream mapping, can be built right into their sprints. Helps them spot and eliminate those bottlenecks.
Value stream mapping. Okay, that one's new. Break it down for me.
It's a Lean Six Sigma tool, helps you visualize each step in a process from A to Z. You can instantly see where the holdups are, where things are getting stuck, where you're doing unnecessary rework. In our software scenario, it's like giving the team X-ray vision. They can see exactly where those bugs are coming from, and more importantly, how to stop them from happening again.
So we're talking, like, giving the whole development process an upgrade. Streamlined, optimized. I like it. But I got to ask, we've been talking a lot about the upsides. Every system has its limits, right? What about the potential downsides of using Lean Six Sigma in IT? What are the gotchas?
You're right to be cautious, got to be realistic. No system is perfect. One thing to keep in mind, Lean Six Sigma can be pretty data heavy. You got to be ready to collect, analyze, make sense of a lot of data. That can be tough.
Especially in IT, right? Data scattered everywhere, different systems, platforms. Sometimes it feels like solving a puzzle, but half the pieces are missing.
You said it. And we can't forget about the human factor either. Lean Six Sigma, it often means shaking things up, changing how people do things, changing habits. That can be a tough sell if folks don't get it, don't understand why we're making these changes.
People like their routines, even if those routines aren't really working that well. Change is hard, especially in tech, where there's always something new to learn, new tools, new methods. It's overwhelming.
No doubt. To really make Lean Six Sigma work, everyone needs to be on board. Developers, managers, the whole team. But even with those challenges, the potential, it's huge.
So it's not just about the technical side. It's about shifting the culture, creating this environment where everyone's looking for ways to improve, always getting better.
Exactly. Lean Six Sigma, it really shines when it becomes part of how the whole organization thinks. Everyone feels empowered to spot areas for improvement. That's where the magic happens.
That makes a lot of sense. But before we send everyone off on their Lean Six Sigma quests, how about a quick recap of the key takeaways from today's deep dive?
Great idea. What are some of the highlights that stood out to you?
So much good stuff today. We've gone from the origin story of Lean Six Sigma to how it actually pairs up with Agile. But if our listeners only remember a few key things from our chat today, what would you want those to be?
You know, more than anything, I hope they see that Lean Six Sigma, it's not just some dusty old manufacturing relic. It's a set of tools, a way of thinking that can make a real difference, even in the crazy fast world of IT. It's about making tech work better for everyone, right?
It's about getting rid of those tech gremlins we talked about.
Exactly. Smoothing out processes, making things work better, higher quality, and for IT pros, that translates to real wins. Saving money, boosting efficiency, even getting ahead in your career. It's empowering stuff.
And we can't forget, it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. You got to find the right tools, the right approach for the specific challenge you're facing.
100%. No need to throw out everything you know about Agile or those waterfall methods. It's about integrating, right? Take the best of Lean Six Sigma and use it to make what you're already doing even better.
Like we were saying before, it's like adding that turbocharger to an already fast car.
Perfect analogy. And yeah, there are going to be bumps in the road anytime you try to implement something new. Managing all that data, getting everyone on board with change, those are real challenges. But the potential payoff is huge.
No pain, no gain.
Right.
Right. But we don't want to scare everyone off thinking it's all uphill battles and spreadsheets. One thing that really jumped out at me from the research was this idea of sustaining the improvements you make. That seems to be where things get tricky.
It's true. It's like going on a diet. You lose the weight, great. But then you go back to your old habits and boom, the weight comes back. Organizations, they can have these quick wins with Lean Six Sigma, but the real test is making it last. It's a journey, you know? this continuous improvement thing.
So it's not enough to just fix a problem and then move on. You've got to constantly be looking for ways to do things even better than before.
Exactly. It's a mindset shift. Suddenly, everyone's looking for ways to reduce waste, boost quality, just make things better. It becomes contagious.
Cultivating that Lean Six Sigma mindset, always pushing to optimize, to improve.
Yes, and it starts small. Asking questions, challenging assumptions, trying new things, even if they seem a little out there.
So to everyone listening, here's a little challenge for you. Think about something in your work, something that could be smoother, something where maybe those tech gremlins are causing trouble. How could you use Lean Six Sigma to get rid of those gremlins for good?
What data could you gather? Could you streamline any processes? Even small tweaks can have a big impact down the line.
Because at the end of the day, Lean Six Sigma, it's not just about crunching numbers and eliminating waste. It's about making tech work better for everyone.
And that's something worth striving for.